Jared Moss. We got you back.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
How are you, buddy? I haven't talked to you for a while. It's been a long while.
I've been avoiding the office as much as possible, but it's not working out for me. No, everything's been going good. We lost Shannon today.
Oh, crap.
Our podcast editor, so who knows what this podcast is going to sound like.
Shannon, we're going to miss you.
Yeah, no, she's been really helpful. I just got done walking her out. But yeah, it's been a little weird. Last 2 weeks she gave us her notice and she's got to moving on to a different job, which is good. I mean, it's one of them deals where you're happy. You're sad to watch them go, but at the same time, sometimes it's the right decision for them. And she did us right. I mean, she helped get all the transition and get everything moved. And yeah, she's a really good employee sometimes. So you lose some, and some employees don't leave fast enough.
Okay.
Jason.
Hey, we can punch that time clock. I don't want to do that yet.
As long as
we can
grow,
fix that.
It seems like the good ones grow, and then they sometimes outgrow you. And then that's not a bad thing.
It's probably the toughest part about the business for me is you have this boundary of employees. Let me turn that down. And I mean, shoot, if you could pay big bucks to everybody, it'd be awesome. But
right.
It's not. I don't know. Young kids have more pressing things to do sometimes than package orders for us, and at the same time you got really good people, and so it's always a balancing act. But
no doubt, man. No doubt.
What have you been up to?
Last time since you and I talked, I hunted all winter, and then
I just hunted all winter,
and then I don't know.
Just rub it in for me. I appreciate you rubbing that in for me, Jared. Thank you.
I have to, man, because that was like it doesn't happen like that every winter, right? It just happened that this last winter was the stars aligned, and I was able to hunt almost every day.
Yeah.
So, and that was really cool. Now it's warming up,
right,
and we're just got done with spring bear, and we got a ton of bird dog stuff rolling. So we're just trying to beat the heat.
We took Sadie out. I don't know when the last time I talked to you. So we hunted a little bit of deer season with her on just like a day, just messing around. She didn't know what she's doing, but so we took her to Maupin. It's a Sage Canyon Outfitters. Basically, you buy birds and plant them. You know what I mean? It's not. You know what I mean? Like at some point you get the exposure, and it's like, man, you can't get good exposure like that hunting. But man, I tell you what, that first, they're like $20 a piece or $25 a piece or whatever it is. Yeah. I was trying not to pay attention too much, but you got to tell the guys how many birds you want to buy, and then they go plant them up ahead of you. Mm-hmm. And, boy, Sadie just thought that was a game. It was like a video game to her. It was like, it was like she ran through the course, found them all, and comes back with her tongue hanging like, Dad, I got them all. Thank you. I was like, oh, whoa. This is not the plan. This is just go kick the birds out of the bushes.
Or do you work with her at home at all? Like with regular pigeons or anything?
Mm-mm. No, I did very little. Like, we had a couple frozen, was it chuckers or whatever? I was quail, so I had a couple quail that I'd play with her as a really young pup. But no, like for the most part, I really, haven't like it. And again, for me, it isn't like I'm trying to make a perfect bird dog. So I'm really relying on the natural ability. You know what I mean? She's with me. She's actually with me today. She's probably sleeping outside trying to go look for birds right now. Every time she slips out, either the UPS driver, because they have little treats. So she'll hop in the UPS truck over here.
Oh, they couldn't do this in my community. Every place they stopped, they'd have to have like 5 treats. There's too many dogs in the country, man.
Yeah, we got the UPS driver. I mean, they come in looking for. Sadie's like a little. She's more popular than I am over here. Everybody comes over here. Where's Sadie? Where's Sadie?
That's awesome.
So I take her to work with me quite a bit. And then, but no, we went we went to that Sage Canyon Outfitters, and we just hauled the camper over there and stayed for a couple days hunting on our spring break because we couldn't get up where we wanted to camp in the woods. And it was fun. I mean, it was like watching her, the first 10 birds or whatever we planted. I think we ended up shooting 2 of them, and it was only because I was pretty good on the gun. You know what I mean? It was not the dog. It was like the bird flew in a manner that I could safely just lead it and shoot it and hit it. And I was like, you probably, you know, a bird dog would have been like, let it go. But me, I was like, $25, 20. Son of a bitch, we're going to eat some birds tonight. You know what I mean? I don't care.
So whoever listens to this podcast, this is exactly how you don't do it, right?
Exactly. I mean, do not just let those $25 birds fly. But for me, I was like, dude, I can't afford to just keep flying birds for this dog. So we killed maybe 2 birds out of the first 10. Yeah. By the end of the trip, I think we were killing 6 or 7 birds because she would just lock on him. And she was just, you could just tell. And again, I didn't have the basics down. I was just solely like rolling at the just like, well, we're going to roll the dice here.
Right.
And really just had to, it was a lot harder probably than it should have been, just because I had to watch her body language, and I could tell when she started getting on it, and I would start really just low stemming her to slow her down a little bit. Mm. And so I was feathering the clutch with her instinct to like not piss me off and her instinct to keep going for the birds. And so it was fun, but I could tell you I'm not a bird dog trainer. I can tell you that right now, man. So if the dog didn't have a strong instinct for birds, I wouldn't be able to do what we did.
Yeah. I wish I remembered the guys.
I remember one of our first.
Oh, go ahead, Jared.
One of my favorite podcasts is one of our first ones. And Buddy said, "So what do you think I should do with Sadie?" And he asked a couple of questions. And I answered him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to do it." No,
I remember that.
Perfect. Yeah, I know exactly what's going to happen. Buddy's just going to feather the clutch and give her the onion. It sounds like it worked out for you, man. So that's awesome.
Sometimes. It cost me I paid the price, Jared. I mean, that first dinner was, what is it, 25 times 10 birds? 250.
It was like $400.
It's the best kind.
Exactly. It was like, that bird cost me a lot. If I would have just played with the wing and a stick, I probably could have come away a lot out the beginning. But it was fun. The kids had fun, and I don't regret it.
Yeah. Have you done any gun?
I'm not going to put the time in it.
Have you done much gun work with her before that? Like, has she been around guns before that? Because that's where most people have the issue is the young dogs start, trying to chase a flush or something, and the gun comes in there, and they're just like, whoa.
So I was actually talking to Steve Snell, and I was like, hey, what?
Yep.
So I ended up buying 4 birds last cat season, like the season. She was really young, so she must have been 5 months old, and I bought 4. I don't know which birds they were. Chuckers probably. I was over there in Moffat. I was actually cat hunting at the time, but John's boy works at that bird refuge. Like, hey, man, can I get some birds? So I went over there. I got 4 birds, brought them home for Sadie, and I set those birds up, put her on them, and then I had the gun. I think it was a 22 or whatever, and I had her up about 30 yards. As soon as the bird flushed, so she hit. She was just. I had him shoot the gun, you know what I mean? And it was 30 yards behind it. She didn't even flinch.
Gotcha. And
then I did it again. It was a 410. That's what I was shooting. And didn't even try and shoot the bird that time. Right. I just wanted to see what she did. And I wanted, when I shot, and I had another bird, because he said, well, if she does even flinch, throw the second bird, you know what I mean? In front of her. And she didn't flinch. She was like on that bird, like stink on white on rice.
Right.
And so then I came closer, and then, and those 4 birds, the last one we actually shot, she pointed, or I don't say point, but she started to lock in a little bit. She was getting, and when she jumped it, I shot it, and she retrieved it, and so that was the only gun work I did, and it was mostly a test,
right.
and I was just seeing her bird drive clearly outperformed the loud noise drive, so I was like, okay, so I didn't mess with it.
She didn't respond at all. So that's a good. That's good.
So yeah, so I did at least do that part because I've had gun shy dogs and it sucks having a gun shy dog, hound or whatever it's hard. So that was the one thing I was like, so yeah, you're right. I in the beginning I was like, that's one issue that if a guy was to, don't follow my footsteps. Number one, don't just listen to Jared. It's a lot easier. It's better. Trust me.
When it comes
on about the sixth bird, I'm like, damn, I should have listened to somebody.
It's free consulting. It's cheaper. You got podcasts, man.
You did awesome though. If you had a good time and you had a fun experience, and by the time I don't know, all of those things, I was just waiting for but then this happened. And if you didn't have any buts, man, you're good. You made it through that first hunt. You're awesome. I tell all my clients that those first 3 hunts are not about you at all. It's all about, and you mentioned this about learning how to read the dog and watch the dog and how she's making scent when she's locking up on point, being able to use a low stem. You know, you're watching her and reading her and being able to respond to what she's doing. That's what those first couple hunts are about. You don't kill a ton, but it doesn't. And
I did start making a system that I would out there. I was really clear that I was like, if she busted the bird, because I mean, she wanted to chase him. Like she had no concept that I was the shooter. You know what I mean? She was like,
gotta get him.
And so if she busted the bird and started taking off on it, when I called her back, I nicked her. You know, I mean, I won't say I fried her, but she had stimulation coming back. There was parts of the equation where she did good and I missed the bird, or, you know, the kids missed the bird, or, you know what I mean? We didn't do our part. And I did tone. I gave her no stem on the recall. You know what I mean? I was like, my bad. You know what I mean? That bird should have fell down out there. And so whether it was me being, you know, feeling bad for not shooting very good or whatever it was, you know, there was two distinct recalls. One was I screwed up, and one was dog screwed up. And I'm just glad she didn't have a collar on me, because I would have been a little bit in trouble if she would have been able to stem me.
What the kids think about it? I'll bet.
Oh, they had a blast. It was. I mean, my wife's like, maybe we should just get rid of hounds and go bird dogs. I'm like, no, I really enjoy hounds. I mean, I really enjoy the woods. I enjoy the timber. I enjoy the mountains. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be a bird dog guy.
It's different, huh?
But damn, it is fun. It is some fun thing to do. And I will probably at least go on a couple bird hunts a year. I mean, I think more than I thought I would, you know what I mean?
It's a great way to get kids introduced, because you can go to those pay to plays, and if you've only got 2 or 3 hours, you know, you can go have a good time, shut it down, and go get a burger. I've got to do more of that, because some of the death marches I've taken my kids on in the last year, it's like, hey, do you want to go hunt bears? And they're like, nope.
Burn out.
So we got to go back and do some bird dogs, because we're burning them out. So it's a great way to introduce kids, and it's fun. It can be fun and fast and furious, and then over, you know?
Yep. And, you know, getting them set up and it's challenging, you know, especially with a young dog, when you got 2 kids and, you know, you're hot gunning it. So it's like, this kid's going to shoot then. And for me, I'm okay. I mean, I've been shooting shotguns for whatever, so I'm pretty handy on a shotgun. You know what I mean? Like I used to just shoot skeet and trap and all that kind of stuff. That was my sport in high school that I always did. Right. But then you get kids, you know, and it's not like setting up on a deer where you were sitting there for 15 minutes, you know, trying to get a shot or whatever. I mean, you're like, you got this dog that's ready to jump. You got this thing going here. The bird's running. You know what I mean? Like, you're watching the bird run off and run through, and it's like, you know, at times it was just, oh shit, man. It was like how far them damn birds would run. I'm like, Sadie, you're not even on the bird no more. That bird, I watched the bird run across the field, you stupid.
Oh, that's funny.
But like those little things, I had it was like, wow. And watching those birds just run in front of the dog it was cool. It was fun, but then you got 2 kids and you're getting mad at the kids. Like, come on, we gotta go. I mean, like, $25 is running that way. We got to get that bill, a dollar bill or whatever. Yeah. So I had fun. I mean, it was totally a blast. And I think September, I'm going to go back over there. I was telling Yuri, we just did a podcast that'll come out. By the time you listen to this podcast, it's already been out. But Yuri, he got a little bird dog, and I was telling him, I said, well, let's go over there and go play with the bird dogs.
Yeah, they're fun.
Anyways, that's what we were going to do a podcast on. We were going to do you had a topic you want to talk about.
Yeah, we actually had a question come in, and it was from a gentleman that had a small, young hound, about 4 months old, and he's working on recall.
Okay.
And he's been listening to some of our other podcasts, so he's been trying to follow along a little bit. And he's
not like Buddy.
You listen to the important ones.
Yeah. He said that she was listening pretty good until about the last couple of weeks. And then she's kind of like blowing off his recall. And he wanted to know when he should introduce the e-collar and how to introduce it.
And how old's the pup?
The pup's 4 months old. So a couple of things that you can use as a measuring stick. For me, I always try to use kibble and feeding time as a recall to help teach them to come to you. But when that day comes, and this was Cole, and with Cole's pup, when Cole gives the pup a recall command, and that day that the little pup flips you the bird and turns the other way and runs away, that's when you know you need to start transitioning from like the trick or treat training to some foundation training. Get the check cord out, get the e-collar out, start introducing the e-collar. So I guess we could talk about that. The 2 things that I wanted to bring up for Cole was until they kind of blow you off, you're just having fun, right? Keep it fun, keep it light. When they start blowing you off, that's when you want to start utilizing the tools. Before they blow you off, though, get them used to a long line or some type of paracord or a leash or something so that you can use that tool to help reinforce recall.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd be curious, like I said, 4 months. I guess he's probably worried about putting the e-collar on, but in my opinion, just because you put an e-collar on doesn't mean you need to mash the button.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like I would be like, hey, I want my dogs wearing an e-collar before I need the e-collar.
Right.
Like, that would be one thing that I would think about. If he's thinking about it, I'm like, well, if you're thinking about it, putting it on
would have been good.
But just don't push the button.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
you don't have to turn it on. Just put the unit on for 4 or 5 days and let him wear it around. Get used to it.
Yeah.
So my method is this. We have the leather training collar that we use. We put a 20-foot or a 10-foot check cord on there. The leather training collar has a little studs on it, so they start feeling that tickle on their neck. And then when I add the e-collar later, the stimulus from the e-collar, they've already had about 20 or 30,000 tugs from that little leather training collar, and they're not associating a negative with that stimulation or that tug on their neck. So it's just a part of their daily routine. It's like putting your boots on and putting your gloves on. They're gonna get used to that leather collar. We start teaching recall. We just bend over a little bit, tug on the rope, give the verbal cue, and then if they don't respond, then we just use the rope to reel them in. Once they get to us, we praise them up. If they're young like this or 4 months old, we start praising them up. Later on, we'll delay that gratification a few seconds. So they start separating, when I come to him and I wait a second, that's when I get the reward for doing the work, not just instantly come to me and then bounce back out. That's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. But we use that leather collar or the long line, and we start making them come in, and then we'll start layering the e-collar with that. So maybe 5, 6, 8 good sessions of long line work, and you've had the e-collar on, but you're not stimulating the e-collar. And then after you get the pretty good recall with the rope, use the rope tug and the e-collar in conjunction, do them together. And that pretty much typically eliminates any spookiness from the e-collar.
Yeah. Yeah. Being a hound is a blue tick, right?
Yeah.
I mean, are you doing that on the hounds too?
I do when they're that young. I do.
Yeah, 4 months.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then as So there's a couple steps there. The 20-foot cord's in my hand and the e-collar's with me. We just do what we just said. And then I start dropping the rope and letting him drag the rope with the e-collar still on. And when he's out there 50 feet, if I tickle the e-collar, he feels like it's pretty much the same thing as me tugging on the rope, right? The big issue that most people have is they just go out and mash the button without doing any groundwork, and the dog gets spooked. And when he gets spooked, you could have multiple reactions. He could run for the truck. He could run between your legs. He could just run for the heels, you know? So by doing a little bit of groundwork with a long line, that gives me something to fall back to. That's always, for me as a trainer professional, I've always got to have somewhere to fall back. Because on your pheasant thing, if something would have went south with the gun or would have went south with her retrieving birds or something, you would have had nowhere to fall back to.
Yeah. Except she would have come to me. But
really strong. But if let's say that one of the birds got up low and one of your kids shot early and hit her or spooked the crap out of her, and now she's going, I don't want to chase those things because
get my ass shot.
Get whacked. Like that hurts.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's just nowhere to fall back to. So I'm always trying
makes sense.
Trying to have levels and we've talked about that throughout the method that we've talked about. But I think for Cole, I think if you're cautious, if you're apprehensive about using the e-collar, putting the ground foundation or the foundation work with the long line, and then adding the e-collar, if you mess up the e-collar, you can back up to the check cord, regain confidence, and then go forward.
And I would probably venture to say he's at 4 months. If you're starting to get worried about that, I know somebody will sell you a Garmin tracking collar or tracking collar because you're probably anxious enough about the fact of where it is and that you're going to lose it. And so putting a tracking collar on it that has stem, again, not shocking it, but that's going to take a lot of anxiety out of the person too. You know what I mean? As far as it's getting to that age where they don't come back or they don't listen or whatever, and that can be dangerous. And just putting a tracking collar on it is going to at least take away some of his anxiety, I would imagine.
Almost all of my clients now, I'm referring to them at least a Pro 550 Plus with a TT15 for that exact reason. Because they're all coming to me saying, well, why would I not have the tracking ability?
Right.
And I'm with them, you know, especially if it's one of your first dogs or your second dog or something, and you don't know what you don't know. You might make a mistake, but you're like, oh, he's only 600 yards over there. I can go find him. That takes away the unknown. That makes life really, So those little Alpha 10 units for the bird dog guys, or the 550 Plus, or those with a TT15, that's a great combo. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah. If you're not, you're really anxious about, and I have times with my like Sadie, you know, she's my lap dog or whatever, you know what I mean? She just rolls with me to work or whatever. We take her to the park and I work with her enough that I can go without a collar on her and she responds to my voice. But even then, I know I'm always going back to having a collar on her. So almost every time I can think about it, she's always got a collar on her, and I'm just consistent about not letting her get away with anything. Because that collar takes a ton of anxiety out of me, out of my wife, out of whatever. When you can't see her, you're like, yeah, no worries. I mean, the end of the world's not going to happen, but as soon as, and I'm kind of in the opinion that if she's not listening and she doesn't have a collar, I'm not going to sit there and freak out about it. I'm going to, especially if she's got, I love it when she's got a collar on, but I'm going to chill out and I'm going to put her in a situation where I can catch her. You know, because I hate it when somebody's like, come here, come on. You know what I mean? Trying to talk to the dog. And I'm like, at some point, you know, you need to like teach your dog that when you say come here the first time or the second time, that means go there. Right. And I hate people that chase around dogs and, you know, end up screaming at them all day. And then they don't do anything when they get it. They just go straight to put them on a leash and go, okay. And they walk off like nothing ever happened. And I'm like, man, that consistency, I think is really important. And a collar is part of my consistency.
Well, I think one thing too, there is, if you have a dog one thought that came to my mind is if you have a young dog that you've done the check cord work with and you're stimulating them and they're still kind of got that confused look on your head, you can put the stim on really low, keep it on continuous as you reel them in on the cord. And then once they're to you, the stimulus comes off. And a lot of the dogs, that's probably the next step that I've worked with on a lot of dogs is they get out there to 200 yards. They're still dragging the rope, but they know they're away from you far enough that you can't catch them. And if you give them a stim and they look at you like, nah, I don't think I want to. I'm going to go check out this other rabbit hole over here.
Right.
You're able to hold down the button a couple of times for 3 to 5 seconds until they start advancing towards you. And then once they make that movement towards you, you release the stimulation. And most dogs will be like, oh, cool, good to go. And they'll finish the recall. If they don't, then you just go right back to the stim and you don't have to really say another voice command.
Yeah. And they just learn. And
yeah, it seems like 4 or 5 of those continuous stims for 3 to 10 seconds. And all of a sudden the dogs go, well, if I don't come on the first nick, I know what's next. He's going to hold down the stimulus. Again, that's on a really low level for a puppy. You could transition that with a tone too. Instead of hitting stimulus, you could just tone train them. Hit the tone, reel them in on the cord. Hit the tone, reel them in on the cord. Hit the tone, reel them in on the cord. All of a sudden, they're pretty quick to go, hey, man, on that tone, I got to come in.
And dogs learn. Like, they treat me differently than they do my kids, for sure. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? I think, my daughter, my kids or whatever, they and probably just because they know that, okay, whatever dad says, he's kind of an asshole. he don't let me get away with much, but my daughter's so sweet. She'd be like, Sadie, mate, and Sadie just all over there. But if I can hold that button, a lot of times I'll make that dog listen to her too.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And I tried to explain to her, I was like, you have to be consistent. Like, the biggest thing about these things sometimes is just being consistent. And it's not like, oh, this one time I'm going to put a collar on, the next time you're not. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be consistent enough that if you forget the collar, the dog doesn't know that. You know what I mean? The dog kind of forgets. It's like, oh, like he still thinks he can get stemmed, but who knows? It's interesting. We should get you on with Yuri sometime. He does. We just did one yesterday. He came in here and was talking about the basics and kind of having a foundation. Not
rock solid
all the time. Yeah. Jason, you've been quiet.
Oh, you just been talking.
I know.
And you kind of hit, the way I feel about it, I use tone. I use an e-collar from as soon as I see they have the mental capacity to learn something, I kind of start working with them. Like, you use, what was the phrase? Trick or treat training.
That's how I started. Yeah. Trick or treat.
Like, just giving them rewards when they come in.
Yeah, just giving them food-based reward. Typically, they're going to kibble.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I start them. And then I moved to using an e-collar with tone on the recall with treats. And then eventually it goes to just verbal. And then your tone is a reminder. And then reel them in. And then after that, it's like, it's a 3-step process. You get your name called, you get a tone. And if you don't listen, then you get stim as reinforcement.
Sure.
But now we've got a dog yard fenced off. So, it's all confined. They're not going to get away. So I've actually got a pup right now that's been a real challenge. The first trip to the woods was a little dicey. Like, I didn't know if I was going to get him to come back to me. I shouldn't have even taken him yet, but we've been doing a lot of work and I've seen some big improvements in him now.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of the same like Buddy's using.
One of the things that we probably should talk, when I just think about Cole's situation with a 4-month-old blue tick, I also would just be cautious to not over train the recall on the dog. Meaning, I see a lot of people who the dog goes out, and if he's out wandering around and sniffing things and doing different things, you definitely want him to come to you when you tell him to come to you. You know what I mean? Like, I get the idea of having a handle, and I expect a handle. The flip side of that is if you take every opportunity and don't let that dog wander off and go find this brush and sniff this, you know what I mean, this road over here and go explore, that should be part of, you know, his training regimen. You know, if he's taking him out and letting the dog go somewhere, sometimes you gotta chill out a little bit and let the dog have the opportunity to go search around at that age, you know?
Yeah, just have him come
Absolutely.
back when you call, but not. I think a lot of guys, myself included, when you were so adamant about having them right there, they don't hunt near as wide. They don't look.
No,
I
they
mean,
don't.
you make
Right.
loses in a race. Even I've seen it. Like those dogs just never got out real far.
I made this mistake with one of my first 2 or 3 hounds. I treated him too much like a bird dog, where I was doing too much leash work and too much check cord work, and those dogs would never really cast. They were always within 100 yards of me, just like a bird dog. So, yeah, I mean, I think at 4 months, if you're doing this for 10 or 15 minutes, that's a lot. That's a long time. Like this is a 10-minute drill max, put it away and then go for a walk, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and you're not doing this every day, 4 times a day. You're doing this a little bit, laying the foundation, and you're still, more importantly, is just put the dang cord on him. If you're really nervous, just put a piece of 20-foot paracord on him and go for a walk, and then step on the paracord when you need to, and throw in a couple recalls, maybe 3 or 4 recalls, and go home. You don't overdo it. Like, if you overdo it, you're going to create a dog that doesn't even hunt. And I did that, and it sucked. Don't do that.
Yeah, and you gotta make sure, because it's easy to get in this mindset. And like, you know, I just watch my kids or whatever. It's like, you know, Sadie, come here, or whatever it is, you know, whatever dog it is, they want to control. Come here. And so the dog learns, oh, every time I get, you know, that far away, they want me to come over there. With a hound, I specifically am like, just let the dog go play. Go let the dog do whatever. And having a collar on it and a tracking collar at the same time is going to be key to being like, okay, for 5-10 minutes, let the dog choose its path. It's searching around. It's doing that. And then, you know, you got to have your foundations. The dog's got to know what you want it to do. And then you say, come here. You know what I mean? And then that dog comes to you, and you got to make sure that dog comes to you. And then let it go again, or change directions, or go a different place and be like, we're going to go over this way. So the dog kind of hunts with you or whatever. But I just see so many people sometimes that if they get in that mindset of, I'm going to train to come here, and man, they want to use that command. They want to use that command every 40 seconds. It's like, come here. And the dog comes at, you know, but it's like, man, if you want that dog to hunt, come here is a strong part of the training process. But if you condense it too much, that's all the dog learns. You know what I mean? And you can overteach come here to where you're not teaching, you know, go hunt at the same time. And as that dog gets older, it's like, man, you overtaught come here to the point where the dog kind of took that as something different.
Stay within this range more than a come when I listen.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I just see a lot of new people. It's really easy for people to do. Is like, oh, we're going to work on, you know, the only thing you can do with this puppy. You got this brand new puppy, and you're like, oh man, I want to play with it. I want to do things. And so it's like the only thing it knows is come here. So you're just like, come here, watch this, sit, stay, come here, sit, stay, come here, and you just over and over and over again. It's like, man, sometimes you just got to chill out and be like, hey, this is a long process. This is a 9-month process. I don't need, you know, off leash work to happen in the first day or the first second day or whatever. Make that process a 3-week process. You know, you go out every day or every other day, and plan on by the end of 3 weeks, you've done so many times of working on recall. You know, so at least for a hound, you know, I mean, that's one thing I was talking to Yuri, was like, hounds are so different. The exposure we got to get them to, you know what I mean? The things we got to expose them to, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. But you can't just set up that scenario with a hound. Like, I think, Jared, you said if you can find a way to put a hound dog on 1,000 lions in a month or 100 lions in a month.
Oh, yeah. 100 lions in a month would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Where bird dogs, you can do that, you know?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
you can. But when
you start hunting
again, I think where somebody that's a little less experienced, that dog starts breaking that 50, 60, 100-yard mark, and they just get anxious. And so they start saying, hey, get back here, get back here. And that hacking actually just reels the dog in. And then they don't ever learn to hunt more than 100 yards away from you because they're just like, well, if I go out any further, I'm just going to get reeled back in. So
it's conditioning.
Yeah, make sure you balance it. Balance it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I think, and I think a collar, as soon as you can get a collar on them, as soon as they're safe to carry a collar, it's going to take a lot of anxiety out of.
Absolutely. And if you own a hound,
situation,
I don't know how you can not own a tracking collar in today's world. There's just too much going on. You think you're
I want to go
in the
back
woods and
sometime.
I mean, there's some ATV guy coming up the road or some guy fly fishing some river. I had a dog picked up the other day, and I was like, I was in this big roadless area. There was one ATV trail. Dog so happened to get picked up, and next thing I know, he's 20 miles north of me.
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, crap. So I go down around, I try to get back there, and that guy turns around the ATV and comes back.
Oh.
So I spent
just ping-ponging.
Chasing this guy on with my dog in an ATV, and I was like, oh, for Pete's sake, just leave anyway.
Just leave him there. Just leave him there.
But hey, peace of mind, I just spent 3 days looking for that guy. I knew where he was the whole time. I just couldn't catch up to him because they'd buzz this way and then they'd buzz back the other way. But yeah.
You ever have anybody down, buddy?
Are you
No, I'm serious.
Well, you were at that Prineville. They were talking about me missing the whole field trial because
I totally forgot that. I just focused in on the elk part, not the somebody picking the dog up and chasing him around.
It's like kicking me in the nuts twice, Jason. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. Just back that up.
Oh, man, both sides. That's an inappropriate comment. Okay, Lord, I apologize.
I'll feed the starving pig me some new Guinea.
We had a field trial in Prineville we went to this years ago, and on the bear race, and I think all the dogs, a big old chunk of them split off. I was probably leading the race with a bunch of an elk herd, and so hardly any of the dogs came through on the race. None of the came through the finish line, and that was the first race of the day. Like we had the bear race. Back then they ran the bear race Saturday morning, and then you had the coon trials the rest of the day. Where you did all your division stuff and all that. Well, the bear race took all the dogs away from camp. Like there was no, so they're like, okay, they're Division 1. Well, or the first semifinals, and like there's 2 dogs there that didn't get put on the bear race, and it was just a complete mess. No shit. From like 8, and I got that dog back, and I got back to camp like 10:30 that night because I had to drive like 40 miles into Madras to pick up one of my dogs. Yeah. So somebody picked up my dog and took it all the way into town. And of course, it's like you're trying to drive around mountains to get, when the dog go across country, right. Sometimes the tactical advantage is not just like a straight line. You're not like a helicopter. You just go, they're a mile that way, but it's like, you got to go 10 miles up this drainage and come up this drain. By the time you get there, they're gone. And this was probably before Garmin. I think it was before GPSs. And
that was a common thing back then.
Madras.
I know when we were not running Garmin's, it's like you'd spend 2 days looking for a dog. You can't find a beep all of a sudden and go back to town and hit cell service. And guess what? Somebody's had your dog since Friday night. But the Garmin's chasing them down. Did you catch the guy with your dog, or like did you head on with him, meet up with him somewhere, Jared?
Yeah, I finally met up with him on a trail, but it just took me a long time to catch up,
And he just looking for you? He just ran up down the road trying to figure out.
I think initially they were like, oh, we'll just pick him up and take him to our cabin.
Mm-hmm.
But they got to the cabin and it was like, oh, that's a hunting dog. Some guy's probably looking for it.
Let's take it back.
So then they buzzed back out to and by the time I got to their almost to their cabin, the dog, I picked up the signal again, and they're 8 miles the other way, So it was like, crap, now you come back. Anyway, I think, man, it's so nice having the technology that we have.
The best look.
It'll save you in gas and time more than you'll ever spend.
That's the truth. That was a selling point for me on those alphas when they came out. I'm like, it'll pay for itself in fuel. or the Astro, I guess, when I got my first one.
Astro.
I said it'll pay for itself in fuel the first season, that you're not chasing back bounces and, telemetry stuff. But the look on someone's face when you run them down when they have a dog on the road is like classic. We had a day that this dog just disappeared, went down this road and all of a sudden he's out of service. So I'm like, crap, we can't even go out this way. We got to go that way if we're going to head him off or we'll never catch up. And this poor old couple, I come flying around the corner. I'm probably doing 65 miles an hour because that was the speed limit. And pull up next to him and motion for him to pull over. And they're like, what is this crazy guy doing? And finally they get pulled over. I'm like, hey, you have something that belongs to us and we need to get it back from you. He said, well, we don't have anything. I said, really? There's a plot dog sitting in the back of your car there that belongs to our group. How did you know that? And I mean, then the conversation changed, but the look of sheer terror on their face. Some bearded dude goes rolling up, doing crazy, stupid miles an hour and pull it on over. But without Garmin, man, that wasn't possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hunt a lot before, Jared? Did you hunt much before Garmin?
No, not much. They did have the Astro when I first started.
Yeah. It was... Yeah, sometimes I always, I was talking to Dawn. I was like, man, we need to do a podcast of the before Garmin days. Because everybody that hunts now with a Garmin, that it was like, oh, it was a whole different game. Like they get mad when, when the Garmin bleeps out for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, or, a couple minutes or even an hour, it's not tracking or something. And, in fairness, like it sucks. I'm not saying it's not right or whatever, but before Garmin, we didn't even pull the tracking boxes out. You know what I'm saying?
Because it was a to-do.
By the time you pulled, it was like, man, the tracking box stayed behind your seat in your truck. And you're like, well, shit, I don't know where they went. Let me go grab the box out. After an hour, let me drive here, drive here, there. And it's like, well, after an hour, like, let me go see if I can get that box. And you're like, oh shit. And what was Copper's number? Okay. That was like, 055. And, you're like listening to the scratch and you're like, okay, yeah, she is. And I think she's over, back then. I mean, you totally were like, gosh, she's 3 miles away that way. And now with the Garmin, you're like, she was 750 yards over a little drop, probably. You know what I mean? Like the distances you made up in your head, listen to that beep, it'd be like, shit, that beep is, like the beep was just almost gone. You're like, oh, barely getting a ping. It's gone. And you're just like, dude, she's like gone. And like I said, she probably wasn't very far, just over a little bluff there and right off a rock hill. But it's insane. I was joking with Dawn, like back, we were hunting before there was like, there wasn't even count, you had these 3,000 hour, 60, whatever there was, the hour batteries. I don't know. Mine were always replaceable, 3,000, wildlife, 3,000 hour wildlife collar. So I'd put a battery in every 2 years or whatever. But we was joking back then. It's like, shit, you didn't have cell phones that had calculators back then. You're trying to figure out how to calculate 3,000 hours, over days. And it's like, well, shit, nowadays, these kids got iPhones and shit. And like, you got a calculator in your pocket. Back then, we didn't even have a calculator. We're just like, yeah, I think that collar's about, it's got to be about half. We're totally guessing half the time. You pull out the collar.
You realize it's been 10 years.
The collar's dead. It's like, yeah, you've been hunting with a dead collar for half a season because you never took your box out. By the time you did try to track it, there's no beep because you either forgot to pull the magnet or the collar was dead.
And you had to be there.
Anyways,
you had to be there to understand what it was like before.
I think we should do a Garmin. I think guys should do a Garmin. Here's the challenge, like the Garmin appreciation challenge or GPS appreciation challenge, because we had dog show. We don't want to just say Garmin. Garmin's most of the big game world is Garmin, but dog show's got a lot of coon hunt stuff. But here's what a guy should do for the challenge. You should take, by all means, for the safety of the dog, you got to put that GPS collar on. But then you have to hand the handheld to your buddy, and you got to make a pact that you will not use it unless it's as soon as you tap out, you're done. Like, you've lost the challenge. And then you got to hunt without using any GPS system, any tracking system, period, and do it like the old days. I think that'd
be cool.
Like, nothing stopping you, man. Jason.
Oh, we usually throw ours on the seat. It's just sitting there, but
yeah. But you still, I bet you grab that thing a couple times a day or a couple times a hunt. I always thought it'd be good to just, if you really want the full experience, if you want to immerse yourself in the system, you know, what that, how much we're relying on some of this stuff. I don't say relying on it to be successful, but for our anxiety, it's like, I bet you it's like smoking a cigarette. You know what I mean? Like a smoker is like, son of a bitch, I just want that damn thing.
Yeah.
No, because I did it. I had 4 callers up hunting. I was on a snowmobile. 3 of them failed. I couldn't get 2 of them wouldn't blink. And I ended up putting the collar on. I picked the one dog. I was like, I hope I get that dog back. And so I put the one collar on, and then I actually turned loose on the cat, and I ran it for about, an hour and a half, 2 hours until it started petering out, it was some drip in the snow. And then the dog started falling apart, like not staying together. And that's when I can tell you, that's when my anxiety came back, and I was like, okay, I'm out. I'm done. It was too much for me.
Yeah. I mean, the safety is the biggest thing about it. Like you said, it's an anxiety calmer for sure.
Yeah. We should do that though. We should figure out how to we should make it a GPS appreciation hunt somehow.
Don't do it where I live.
Like a rendezvous?
You'd be hiking for hours and hours and hours. You'd be hiking up to the top of the mountain to try to hear where they're at. And by the time you got there, you'd be like, I can't even hear them. And I don't.
It's only the guys that complain about it, though. You know what I mean? Like the ones that complain about those are the ones that I want to be like, okay, here's the course.
Here's the course.
Yeah. You just get, sometimes it's like, man, I think sometimes we forget how good we have it.
Oh, no doubt.
And even with the, and I sound like I'm protected Garmin. Garmin pisses me off sometimes on some things that they do. And I'm like, dang it. Why are you doing it this way? But, a lot of times I'm like, yeah, there's times that they deserve. Oh, I mean, they deserve all the pushback. There's some situations that I'm like, the Alpha 2, the 200 charging port, push back all you want on Garmin, man. Kick them down, they're down. I got no love for some of the decisions they make, but then other times I'm like, you know what I mean? We're holding them to a higher standard than we used to hold other tracking systems too. So yeah, it was good. Well, we're running 50 minutes. You got anything else, Jared?
I think we got that one squared.
When do you get back out in the woods?
We're shut down until July 5th for bears. We'll better be able to pursue July 5th for bear. We ran a line the other day, but so dang hot. By 11 o'clock, it was 80 plus degrees, and it was like, we're done.
Yeah. So you just shift to bird work during the summer then, for the most part?
Yeah, here in July, we'll throw up our bird dog, hound dog camp and go up to 10,000 feet and run bears every morning and train bird dogs the rest of the day. Works out really nice because we take advantage of those. At that 10,000, 11,000 feet, we're 70 degrees.
Oh, nice. So
it's really nice. 50-degree mornings and 70-degree days. We can train all day long.
Heck yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot of fun. My kids go up. My whole family goes up, and we take the camp trailer up, and we stake out like 30 dogs, and it's a blast.
Do you have a trailer, or what? How do you bring that many dogs?
I've got a trailer and truck, and we've got a pull behind trailer.
Do you make multiple trips, or you got
built?
Yeah, but I mean, for the camp trailer, you got to go 2 separate trips, or
take the camp trailer up one day, and then the wife pulls up the UTV, and I pull up the dogs and go again. It's a lot of fun though.
Sounds like it.
Sounds like it.
That's my favorite thing to do with young dogs, with like young hounds. Because if they do get thrown out of a race, it's like no big deal. From camp, you can usually pick up a signal on them and let them work their way out and let them work things out. And that's a real good way to let them learn, kind of back to what we were talking about, giving them an opportunity to start a race, but maybe they get thrown out and they got to backtrack their way out and it takes them 2 hours to do it. No big panic, because you're right there close.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. You can just kind of chill out and keep an eye on them.
Super, super convenient.
Heck yeah.
So that's what we got coming up.
Right on. Yeah. I go tomorrow. Me and Bradley are going to go watch the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. So we take off tomorrow. Ken Block was supposed to race up it, but he blew his motor up. So the one Bradley wanted to go watch isn't going to be able to race up it, but we'll see. But we'll go stake out at 10 or 11,000 feet to watch that race all day. I'll see if I get the altitude sickness.
What is the race called?
It's called the Pikes Peak Hill Climb.
Gotcha.
So they race cars all the way up this mountain. It's 14,000 foot mountain. And it used to be gravel and shit, but a couple people has gone off the edge, and I mean
it's a big deal.
Kind of, you're dancing, you're playing with a little bit of fire racing up the side of the mountain. It's not like it's a racetrack. You go over the edge and it could be a long range dance.
It's pretty gnarly. You can find it all on YouTube. It's pretty cool
have to
race.
Check that out.
Yeah,
that's not one of those where they're like digging straight up the hill and they got to try and make it up to the top. Then
no, it's a mountain. It's like 14 miles.
It's an actual course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's 14 miles. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's a road that you can drive all the way to the top of this peak. And I don't know if it's I was born in Colorado Springs, so that mountain was always right there. But if it's one of the tallest peaks in the lower 48 or something like that, it's got some claim to fame, But you could drive a car all the way to the top of it, and there's a little train there. But yeah, you basically rate. They wouldn't let. This year is the first year they won't let motorcycles race up it because they've had four people die racing motorcycles up it. They just don't make the turn, so they announced that they're no longer going to let motorcycles race up it.
And this is in Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado Springs.
So are you flying out there?
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, we'll go. Me and my boy will fly out there tomorrow morning, and I've told him for a couple of years we wouldn't want to try and go, and this year it kind of worked out. And then Ken Block was supposed to race up it, so I thought, that'd be fun. We'll watch. I don't know if you ever. He's out of there, Utah somewhere. I think he has someplace. Hoonigan. He's got that 4-wheel drive Mustang. Look up. Oh man, what do they call that damn Mustang? Damn it, I can't think of the name. The Hoonigan maybe is what it's called. Just YouTube Hoonigan Mustang and watch him race that thing. It's a 4-wheel drive. It's cool Mustang. It's like he's drifting shit. It's totally you tell he drives pretty intensively on his drifting and shit. But so he'd be fun to watch race up the mountain.
Awesome. Yeah.
Other than that, we'll go to go do some family stuff, and then hopefully I'll start getting the dogs back in shape, and I'll be ready to start. I want to hunt this year. Like I need more hunting this year than last year. So,
well, guys,
Jason, you got anything else?
That was it. That all tied in.
Pretty hit all our check marks.
We only got one F-bomb to edit out on this one, so we're good.
We should make some more. Jared, you got any mess up stories you want to tell us? We haven't done a train wreck for a little while.
When's my last train wreck?
Jared's just been having epic hunts lately. That's it.
Man, I knock on wood. I've had some great hunts. I can't complain. I'm trying to think of the last. I don't know. I can't think of the last train wreck.
Yeah, we'll just have to go with Sadie's train wreck. It was like a little video game with her. She was running through that. It was like a course she set up, except the course cost you $25 a bird.
Yeah.
And boy, she ran through that. It was like almost Sonic. Like a video game. You're sitting there like duck hunt. And it was like duck hunt. It was like you heard the little cha-ching every time she flushed the bird up. It was like cha-ching, cha-ching, and she'd flush 3 or 4 of them at a time. You know what I mean? She'd just run.
Right.
bam, and it'd be like cha-ching, and cha-ching, 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 and I'm like, holy shit, slow down. You know what I mean? I was like, damn it, I can't afford to go at this rate, Sadie.
Yeah, I could remember the guy's name. We have a customer. I got talking to him one day, and he does all the pigeon trapping for like Walmart, like endless supply of training material. So if he listens to this, I am really sorry. I don't remember the name. It's been probably 3 years since he said that, but there you go. You get a whole truckload and train right there at the house.
Man, we use a little cardboarded method with those wild caught pigeons, and they're awesome because they don't want to be anywhere near you. So if you break that 20-foot bubble or whatever, they just pop up like a wild bird.
See ya.
You got a little piece of cardboard tied to them. They can fly 30 to 50 yards and land again. And when you got young dogs, 4-month-old puppies that you're just trying to get them exposed to birds, that's a great way to.
You just like tether it to their foot.
Yep. Yeah.
That's what I should have done in the beginning. But no, I chose the expensive
just feather that clutch and let her rip, brother. Hey, it works.
Yeah.
You did well.
Yeah, no kidding. She's a cool
that doesn't
dog.
sound like much of a train wreck, dude. I mean, if you ended,
it was just expensive.
Yeah,
it was expensive. It was going the long. It was going the long way around.
More than others in life.
I don't know.
I tell you what,
more
though,
expensive than buying like 300 to 500 birds and doing it the right way.
Yeah, the one thing I can tell you though, I mean, and I don't know what it was, maybe because we wasted so many birds and I was counting money. You know what I mean? I was like, son of a bitch, this is an expensive weekend.
Right.
Got the kids there. I mean, you couldn't find shotgun shells. So long story short, he had a couple cases of shotgun shells. So I'm like, I better buy these now, because I couldn't find some of this stuff anyway. So I was buying cases of shotgun shells at the same time. So it wasn't just the birds. I mean, the whole weekend was turning out to be more expensive.
Don't you have some wild birds up there though and working? Yeah. Now she knows what she's doing. Now you can go hunt wild pheasants.
Yeah. See, that was the problem is I can see why going to a training facility would be helpful, because I'd be pissed if I walked, 3-4 miles and all of a sudden, okay, well, let's go find another one. You know what I mean? I don't know how long it takes you to find a wild bird, but in our mile hike, when we have 10 pheasants planted in there, the best part about that was, again, I could get her on positive quickly. And it's probably the only thing that saved my ass. You know what I mean? To be honest with you, if it would have been like I had 2 or 3 opportunities and I would have blown all 3 of those in that first, the first trip was rough, but because we can come back that afternoon and just do it again, but just fine tune it. And so we were able to hammer it. I think we went through 30 or 40 birds over the weekend, and that many touch points, so quickly, and it didn't help that it was, my kids were really enjoying the heck out of it. And so I was like, well, we did it, but being able to recover was probably the only thing that saved my ass. Cause if I'd have tried and do that on live birds, you'd got maybe, I don't know. I've never hunted live birds. I've hunted some of the quail, but man, it's hard to get them on them. And then if they just blow them out, it's like, well, that may be the opportunity you had
for 3 hours and the one bird gets up and by that time you were already asleep. You weren't paying attention. So, you're figuring your day's blown. Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what happens in September when I go back. If, how much
she retains. Yep. She will.
Yeah. If she picks it up quicker, which I imagine she'll pick it up quicker, but we'll see.
Cool.
So, who knows? All right, Jared.
We'll do this again soon.
Yeah.